Welcome back to the All 32 pod. Speaking of welcome back, Will is back. He's been run ragged today, but good to see you. Missed you at the beginning of the week, but stuff happens in life. We got to take care of that. We're excited today because as we enter the off season, we thought it might be a good idea, fun little exercise to pick maybe 5 moves that we want to see happen this off season. And Will and I kind of concocted a list. His is a little different than mine. We'll get to it. Just a reminder, though, show brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. And Will, I wanted for the home audience, for the people that have followed me through all these years in New England, I wanted to start with one for the New England Patriots. I don't think it's not a mighty move, but I think it's a good move, a solid move, and a move that would help make the Patriots a better football team. And that's calling the Jacksonville Jaguars and offering a day 3 pick for Christian Kirk, who's coming off a broken collarbone. They tried to move him right before he broke the collarbone. Pittsburgh was interested. There were a couple other teams. He's got 1 year left on his contract. It makes a lot of sense to me because he's a good football player, not a great football player. Everybody lost their mind, Will, when he got that contract, right? That contract has been dwarfed a million times by a bunch of different guys. Some that aren't as good as Christian Kirk. So to me, it's not Tee Higgins, everybody, whatever. Maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. It's not Ronnie Stanley. There's the cry for the left tackle. This is just I can see this. He was available. There's a new regime in town. Again, last year of the contract, and he's a good, solid football player. And I had all the confidence in the world that Josh McDaniels could wring something very strong out of him. And you have immediately taken that wide receiver room, Will, which I want to launch to the moon anyway. And you've immediately made it better by adding a player of this caliber.
Yeah, look, I think, first year in Jacksonville, got a lot of heat, right? Wow, that contract, so bad. First of all, not to sound condescending, but I guess I will sound condescending. I have a Yankees hat on. I'm allowed to be condescending. Don't ever look at the total dollars. The total dollars are for the agent. It's for the player's ego. Sometimes it's for the team to be like, look, we gave out the biggest contract, et cetera. Kirk's deal was pretty fiscally, it's fine. It wasn't it was definitely an overpay, but that's what happens in free agency. Mike, first year in Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence finishes 7th in MVP. They, the fluky playoff win. They obviously, do well at Arrowhead in round 2. 84 catches, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. Patriots would take that at the current moment. Again, look, I think, is he the big fish in A.J. Brown, Tee Higgins, DK, even Debo by name? But if I'm trading for a player and I'm the Patriots, do I want to pay for I believe it's the last year of Christian Kirk's deal in from Jacksonville for a day 3 pick, as you mentioned, a guy who Josh McDaniels gets the best out of these slot guys, et cetera? Or do I want to pay probably a pick much higher than what I'd have to pay for Christian Kirk to Debo Samuel, who I just would implore people, again, I don't want to sound like a dick, but I would implore people, look what's happened post-contract extension. 2021 has this amazing year. He's an amazing player. He was an amazing player for sure. Misses a lot of time. The numbers have halved, in every category. The games played have halved in every category. And there's a lot of times he's playing, but he's banged up early in the game.
He's in out. Someone will tell me, he only missed 3 games last year. I'm like, no, if you go look deeper at how many times he had to come out of a game and either not return or come back in and not be the same player, it's a no-brainer. And I liked your other point too. That one of the things that made him unique was putting him in the backfield, right, and becoming the running back. And that led to a bigger contract, and sort of they were at loggerheads there for a little bit. He wasn't good running the football this year. Now,
no, but he started the year as a running back. The first week against the Jets, I'll never forget. It wasn't that memorable, but it was does he play receiver anymore? Right. He kind of just became just a full-time running back, and then they were like, well, that's not. He's going to get killed, so let's put him back at receiver. And Christian Kirk, I still think, is going to be able to get open. Again, do I think that Patriots fans are going to do jump over the moon about a receiver core of Christian Kirk, Pop Douglas, and Jalen Polk? No, I don't think. But that sounds a lot better than, hey, we're going to pay Debo $18 million a year. What's left of the deal? We're going to give up a 3rd-round pick. He's going to get force-fed the football a million times, and people are going to start to get pissed by week 6. I just feel like the Patriots could Like, tell me, Mike, I guess I'd say this for the Jets too, but I'd describe it this way. And tell me if you would be intrigued at this receiver core if you're the Patriots. And being realistic, right? Like, say they go Graham or Campbell or one of a trench player at 4. They spend majority of their free agency money defensively and then off the offensive line. They don't add much in the way of receiver in free agency. But what they do add, they add Josh Palmer as to be their 2/3. They draft at the top of the second round Matthew Golden, who falls a little bit because
University of Texas.
Whatever. They draft one of those guys that's in receiver 3 through 5, whatever, or trade up, and then they have Pop Douglas, Polk, and Christian Kirk. Now it's like we're 5 deep. We probably don't really have a true one, but we have multiple 2s who could cosplay as a 1. We have a Josh Palmer type who's produced. He's not maybe lived up to the expectation in college, but that to me, at least now I was a Patriots fan going, bad Hunter Henry, Ramondre. If the offensive line's better, like we could win 8-9 games here. Mike Vrabel's done more with less in his time as a head coach.
Well, I keep thinking, and this is sort of in my message to Patriot fans, to people that subscribe to Boston Sports Journal, wherever, it's like, just like last year, you're not going to be able to fix everything that ails you in one off season. So, they'll take a big swing or two, I'm sure, in free agency. They'll talk to Tee Higgins, and who knows? Maybe they land him. Maybe they say, "Hey, we're giving you $35 million, $36 million a year. We're going to have you right in the Justin Jefferson ballpark," which again, not the same player, but this is what happens in free agency. And knowing that in a year or two, that contract will be less than Jamar Chase, or it could be in a week, could be less than Jamar Chase, depending on how that all plays out. But it just concentrate on some of the strengths. We talked about quite a bit, like defensive line for the draft, right? There's 41 guys invited to the combine that played defensive line, like just a huge number in terms of defensive tackles. Like concentrate on a couple areas, fix that, and then you've raised the floor of your team. You've raised it with the coaching as well. You hope Drake takes that next step, and like you said, you have all of a sudden you have a competent wide receiver room, and you're just a lot better as a football team. Give me your
try to fix it overnight. I think they got to be smart here because. Yes, the cap will continue to go up. And yes, Drake's in his rookie deal, so now's the time to spend money. But also maybe just be like, no, you can spend money this year and next year, not just in a 1-year window. Like as fun as 2021?
2021, yeah.
21? Yeah, like it was a fun year, but they've kind of paid for it the last 2 years. And I think they almost jumped the gun a year early. Like, could they be aggressive spenders in the trenches? Yeah, like those usually age actually pretty decently. I don't. How much better does Tee Higgins make this Patriots team? And is he worth top of the market guy who's had a lot of soft tissue injuries? I like the player a lot, but I like the player a lot more in Washington, where if he gets hurt, you still have McLaurin, you still have these other weapons. I worry, like if the Patriots, all the eggs are in one basket, I almost kind of feel like can they be aggressive but diligent and like building this thing the right way this time, not just, hey, let's pay Mike Gesicki and Hunter Henry and 800 and what's his, oh my God.
Nelson Aguilar, John Smith.
Yeah. It's like I don't know if that's the way you go from 3-4 wins to 9 or 10 wins next year. I think you got to be
methodical.
Do this.
Yeah. Don't. Just because Washington made this big jump, Washington's roster was way better than the Patriots roster coming into this past year. And then Jaden Daniels proved to be special. We don't know that Drake May is special. He had a real nice rookie year. He showed signs, but he didn't elevate everybody. And quite frankly, the roster was worse. So it was harder to do. But anyway, Jaden was special. What do you got for one of the moves you'd like to see?
Man, so I kind of go, Mike, I've gone back and forth with a lot of different ones. In terms of like, how do we kind of maneuver this one? We've talked a little bit about this one, and I'm gonna drop this one. I don't even remember if this one we talked about, but I'm gonna drop it anyways. I referenced the team previously. I think Myles Garrett on the Commanders is a no-brainer. I think the compensation would make sense for them. I think for Cleveland, you can accumulate picks. If I'm Cleveland, I'm transparently like I might even say I'd part with not getting this year's one if it meant I got 2 future ones. If I'm them, because like I think again, Cleveland's got to think long term here. It's like we got 2 more years where we're going to get absolutely effed with the Watson money. Can we just totally reset the deck? We probably take maybe we take a quarterback this year and we hope that can we somehow move more money into this year with Watts? Like, can we almost just suck one more year? Or maybe you don't get the quarterback this year and they trade back with maybe the Giants or the Jets or the Raiders.
Be ready to have multiple assets
next year
the first
if you need
round.
To move up.
Yes, if it's Garrett Nussmeier, whoever the quarterback that may emerge, Carson Beck, if he comes back healthy and rediscovers his former mind, whatever it is. I'm just throwing out names in my head. Like, and then you have the assets from that trade to then say, no one's going to outprice us. We want that guy. And if we're not drafting number one, we can get there if we want to.
And then you look at Washington, and you go, okay, the defense was still not good. I think there's, they had moments they turned the football over and very Dan Quinn. Like, this is what happens. We saw the best of Dan Quinn against the Lions. We saw the worst of Dan Quinn's level of defense against the Eagles. Myles Garrett drastically improves what you get out of those defensive tackles. He frees up Frankie Louvu to just be an absolute menace. Washington can afford in 2 years to they can still afford as Myles is good at 31. Who cares? This is their window because now we know Jaden's awesome. We know they have a coach that's good enough. We know McLaurin's good enough. If I'm them, I'm taking the big swing at, can we bring in T and Myles Garrett and say, whoa, we're gonna spend 60 of the 90 million bucks we have on two guys. And again, the draft capital, when you have the quarterback, this is when's the time to do it. So for me, Myles Garrett, I don't know if they'll trade him, right? I think there's still the possibility things could be amended and they could say, we've seen this before. I want out. Well, here's 40 million bucks a year. I don't think the Browns should do that. I think his value is never going to be higher. And again, does the window for him, this is the conversation with all these guys. Does the window for him, right? When Myles Garrett, is he still going to be awesome? He might be. He is a special athlete. Is he still going to be awesome in 3 years? Maybe. And it doesn't matter for the team acquiring him because you already have the quarterback. If you're Cleveland and you don't draft a quarterback this year, you've now delayed it another year. I just would be very cautious of there's a fine line, Mike, of keeping your franchise guy. You don't want to be the laughing stock of oh, here's the Browns finally got their guy and they trade him. But also if Washington calls you and gives you 2 first-round picks and you can kind of clear the decks money-wise for 2026.
Yep.
I think I'd at least be heavily considering it.
Yeah. As I said, we didn't necessarily combine our list. I had Myles Garrett on my 5 that I would want to see happen, except mine is for Detroit. Obviously, undergoing a lot of change in terms of the coaching staff. Aaron Glenn is now the head coach of the Jets. Ben Johnson's gone. But I look at Aiden Hutchinson coming back, ready to go in camp. They've been searching for someone to be opposite him his entire time here. They rolled the dice on Marcus Davenport. He particularly got hurt. Actually, their entire defense got hurt last year. But give me Hutchinson on one side, give me Garrett on the other, and they can play as aggressive as they want because the back end will be that much better when Myles Garrett and Aiden Hutchinson are torturing opposing quarterbacks. And also,
last Hutchinson will all come back smoothly, right? You don't have to. I don't know that injury is going to be such a cakewalk to come back.
Exactly. That's one of those things where I would say with the ACL, people come back in less than a year from an ACL. Yeah, but you don't become the same player again for another 4 or 5 months. Some guys, Breece Hall, sort of second half of 2 years ago, right? He started to find himself those last 5 or 6 weeks. That was beyond the year mark, right? In terms of when the injury happened, when he started to become himself again. So yeah, that gives you some insurance there. Hey, Aiden, you don't have to play 60 snaps on defense. Or, hey, if you're not quite ready to go for week 1, don't worry about it. We got Myles Garrett. And when you're back and he's going, forget about it. And as I mentioned too, McNeil will come back off the injury as well. So they should be stacked there. That's a name I had. I'm going to give you one that I know you've talked about. We've talked about quite a bit during the course of this past year. And he's really the big domino in terms of the quarterbacks in free agency. And that's Sam Darnold, former Jets first-round pick. Now, look, did I say to myself, boy, if I mentioned the Darnold going back to the Jets, and we've talked about a little bit, that's a pretty awesome story. And there's obviously a lot of demons and Belichick had him seeing ghosts and all these different things. I like Sam Darnold too much to do that to him.
Yeah,
So
I think he likes. I think everyone would. I'll just say this quickly on this because I think it makes all the sense in the world, and from every aspect except this. And Devin McCourty said this on the pod the other day, and he broke Sam Darnold for lack of a. If you want to blame one guy, you can blame him, J.C. Jackson, and Bill Belichick. Two of the three have their respect still. I would say this. It'll be great. And even if he starts out, he could have the same year he just had in Minnesota. But the second that he has the one bad Patriots game, it's going to be – I just don't know. He's a mentally tough kid, but the fan base is like –
yeah, and they already saw it didn't work, and they're impatient because
now you're getting paid. They're gonna crush you.
Yeah, the Rodgers thing didn't work, and the Zach Wilson thing didn't work. The Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. All-Star Weekend almost here. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching your favorite players during the game and the Saturday night events like the 3-point contest. Again, you can win 1,000 times your money. So if you're into it, just do it. Download the app. Use the code CLNS to get $50 off instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use your code CLNS to get $50 off instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. So what I'm doing for Sam is I'm sending Sam to the Vegas Raiders.
Ooh.
They need a quarterback, right? Aiden O'Connell, not the long-term answer. Gardner Minshew, not the long-term answer. Pete Carroll will lean more. Pete's still a run-first guy. He's got Chip Kelly. Chip did a great job at Ohio State. I just think that's a really nice spot. I don't think he's going to get $50 million a year. I don't think that's going to happen. But if it's if it's the Baker deal, 3 and 100, whatever, 90, 110, somewhere in that ballpark, it's not so onerous that they can't afford it, that they can't say, we're still going to, if we like someone in this draft or next draft somebody high, but at the same time gives them a guy that can make throws and plays that Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew can't. And look, we killed the coaching staff. We don't quite understand that roster build, how that thing was constructed, but there's some good young pieces there. Brock Bowers obviously being one of them. Jacoby Myers is a nice piece at wide receiver. You bring Sam Darnold, it opens up a whole different element for them at 6 in the draft. Like, could they go McMillan? If Travis Hunter starts to slide and they see Travis Hunter as an offensive player, do they jump up a couple spots and make that move? Like, to me, it's a good spot for him. It's indoors. You're playing your home games indoors, which never hurts. Quarterbacks do like that. So to me, Sam Darnold to Vegas, I want to see it. I like it. I like Pete and Sam together. Let's do it.
So I'm not gonna do a full Darnold thing because you just talked about it. Darnold to the Rams to me is the biggest no-brainer of the offseason. If Stafford's not there, very similar system Sam's coming from. He should have another group of receivers. The Rams are obviously a team that could be adding Devontae Adams, Devontae, Puka. That running game, the offensive line should gel even more and be healthier. McVay, like Sam going home to where he's going to be the most confident and most himself, like inside again for at least 11 games. Cause obviously, teams like Arizona and stuff are inside. That to me is a no brainer. This is a random one. I didn't even run this by you. And it actually just popped in my head. And I've been thinking about Denver a lot. Obviously the Jets hired, Denver's assistant GM, kind of trying to do a lot of digging around the league of what Denver did to rebuild this thing so quickly and what, Detroit did. Alvin Kamara to Denver. I don't know how much he has left. I think he's got more left than we realize. I don't think it's going to be in New Orleans. I think there's too much there. Javante's good, but I don't think he's ever going to be the player we wanted. That knee I don't know if he's ever going to gain full Javante powers from back in North Carolina.
Yep.
Estime we both like. My mind's slipping there. Third running back that is also good, but
yeah, he's the little kid.
Yeah.
Also, Javante's a free agent.
So Julian's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's who I'm missing. The offensive line's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Bo Nix likes to throw screens. He likes to kind of keep the ball in that kind of 5-yard horizontal box. He actually showed more this year pushing the ball down the field, but I think they could use another weapon. We know Sean Payton with running backs and those guys that can catch the football is better than anybody at drawing that stuff up. Does a move like a Kamara, again, in a rookie contract window, now that dead cap money's starting to kind of come off there, New Orleans has got to move pieces. I don't know. That one to me, like, big name, and I don't think I think you're the comp, I guess I would make, and I think he's got more juice than he had. He's not the same player. But when LT went to the Jets, he kind of became a receiving back that you could lean on for 15 carries a game if you needed to, but really you wanted 8 carries for 40 yards and 6 catches for 60 and a touchdown. And that's what he was with the Jets, especially year one. Can you get 2 years out of Kamara and just say, hey, help our rookie quarterback along? You've won in the NFL. Maybe getting out of New Orleans might be good for some of the other stuff. So that's one that kind of pops into my head.
Yeah, no, I like that one a lot. I have
no idea, by the way, if New Orleans. I've not asked anybody about New Orleans trading him, but
they just hired Kellen Moore. So like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's still probably to be determined in New Orleans. I'll give you my next one. The Titans do the right thing and trade out of number 1.
Who do they trade with?
Excellent question. So if the Sam Darnold thing that I want to happen does not happen, are the Raiders in love with Cam Ward or, as has been rumored a million times, Shedeur Sanders? Now, maybe they don't have to trade up for Shedeur because there's some people, I mean, I don't think he's a first-round quarterback, but he's going to be. So just whatever. Or even just to go back slightly. It's like, say, for instance, the Patriots, who, if Will Campbell's not the answer at tackle and he's the only offensive lineman who would be worthy of taking it 4, what if they say, we just need Abdul Carter? We're going to go up and get Abdul Carter. We're going to give you a 4. They have the extra 3rd this year from the Atlanta trade with Judon. Maybe they just push it to a future 3rd, something of that nature, a 4th, whatever. I haven't looked at the point value system on that. But to me, that makes a lot of sense because I don't think Cam Ward's it. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is it. I think their roster is a disaster. We talked about this going into the year. We talked about during the year. You want to talk about a roster build that made no sense? I know they fired Vrabel. They probably have regrets, but Brand Carthon running the show was a mess. He's been fired. Now they've brought in 900 GMs, ex-GMs. Who knows what the power structure is there? But to me, the right thing for that team to do is just get as many dart throws that they can in this draft and next year's draft and build it the right way. Say to Brian Callahan and his staff, look, as long as you show improvement this year, even if we go from 3 wins to 5, 3 wins to 6, and that you run a good ship, you're back next year. But we have to build this the right way. We've been trying to piecemeal this thing together. It doesn't work. So to me, in this draft, the way it's shaped and their roster as bad as it is, do that. Make that move. Do the smart thing. Again, like whether it's the Patriots, whether it's the Giants who want Cam Ward, whatever the case may be, move back, not too far back, but move enough back where you get some good assets for it. You still pick in the top 10 and you can make something happen with your roster.
All right. I'm going to give you I don't know if the Jets will do the Cam Ward thing, but there's been a lot of people this week that are kind of connecting the dots. I don't know if it's just the Rodgers thing.
Mm-hmm.
My issue with the Cam Ward to the Jets thing is nothing to do with Cam Ward, because I think the Jets would be really intriguing with Cam because like they're actually in a much better spot to land a young quarterback than they have been in the past. Is Tennessee going to want to drop all the way to 7? I feel like that's where it gets dicey. I'll give you a Jets one. And again, because the way they're going to do this Rodgers thing, it looks like they are going to try to spend money.
Yep.
Milton Williams. I've been all over him for all year. I don't know if Mason Graham's going to fall to 7. Does it free you up to maybe draft then a Shamar Stewart or a Jalen Walker and take a dart throw on this? Like, hey, we want to recreate a little bit of what we had 2 years ago where our defense was giving everybody problems.
Mm-hmm. They were a top 5 defense for 2 years running.
Yeah. And then like the numbers aren't as bad as I think the tape was last year. Do we add a Milton Williams next to Quinnen Williams and say our base front's going to be just, take this journey with me?
Yeah,
we're going to go 4 across Jermaine, Milton Williams, Quinnen, and Will McDonald. We're going to this package of Jamie and Sherwood, Quincy Williams, and Jalen Walker, and we're going to kick the ever-loving bleep out of you on early downs. we're going to yank Jamie and Sherwood or Quincy or whoever, Milton Williams off the field on third downs. We're going to play Jermaine and Jalen Walker on that overload front they love to run. And we're going to have the back end of Michael Carter, Sauce. And at that point, who else? It doesn't really matter. And now it's like, oh, our defense is insane again. Like that's – I don't know if the Jets will do it, but I think teams like the Giants and, a million other teams are going to spend on Milton Williams. He's going to get a ton of money. And Javon Hargrave will be available. So basically like the guy that the Eagles, of course, the guy the Eagles replace, they let the guy walk and he sucks in San Francisco, and the guy they replace him with is going to go get paid again. That's a move to me that's like, it almost makes too much sense. It won't happen, but I almost think if the Jets can add a defensive tackle so they don't have to in the draft, it's a great draft. You can go on day 2 or day 3 now and get the guy behind him. They need to add multiple bodies. And again, Milton Williams he's a damn good player.
So I look, we spent multiple years, you and I, as we were building our relationship, talking about how good that defense was for those 2 seasons in particular. And I mean, we just saw it in the Super Bowl, and it's not everyone can duplicate it, but the Jets already have pieces in place so that if they add a Milton Williams, they can become that. And it is so hard. And we saw, despite the Chiefs' offensive line issues, we saw when you got 4 guys and you can get to the quarterback with 4 guys, just Godspeed. It's just so hard for a quarterback. It's so hard for a coordinator to try to figure out how to work things. And you're not talking about throwing into a sloppy back end. You're talking about Carter and Sauce. Like, that's super talented in the second level or third level. So, yeah, I like that one. Considering I've done 4 already and you've done 3, why don't you give me another one here?
I know this one's not going to I'm going to give you one funny draft one quickly. That's going to take 30 seconds. Dylan Gabriel has to be a Dolphin. Like, he just has to be. Tyler Warren has to be a Colt. Mason Graham to the Patriots, and they trade for Jeffrey Simmons. I'll go. Actually, you know what? I'm going to land on that one because I've gone back and forth, and the A.J. Brown thing was peak A.J. Brown. They win a Super Bowl. He's a touchdown in the game, and couldn't give less of a crap about the game. He obviously is just upset about targets. I saw a joke that someone said that he wants so badly to be Josh Gordon in 2012 and just be on a terrible team and have 180,000 catches. I think that Vrabel is going to try to bring one of his guys from Tennessee. I don't know if A.J. Brown, I think it's a $40 million cap hit for the Eagles. That's to trading A.J. Brown. That's the only reason I don't think it happens. And I detail that why I think maybe it's best if they go in that, like, can we get a couple B+ guys as opposed to the A++ guy that, I don't know, AJ's kind of often hurt a little bit too now these days. Jeffrey Simmons, Mason Graham at 4, and then Barmore when he's back, and you kind of just like maybe you play 3 across and they just play a 3-4, and it's like we make Mason Graham a 3-4, a 3-4 end, and we play, Jeffrey in the middle or Barmore in the middle and whatever. The Patriots and Jeffrey Simmons, like Vrabel got the best out of them. Does Tennessee want to start really recouping as many assets? Right. And if you're the Patriots, you're like, ooh, maybe it's not Mason Graham at 4. Maybe now we can go offensive line. That I don't know. Jeffrey Simmons to me just feels like a guy that can come in. Hey, this is Mike Vrabel's culture. Like, if you want to talk, you don't want to be a part of this. Like, you come through me. This is my guy. We always see this. Teams bring over new coaches, bring over a couple guys. They try to bring over one big name. The Jets did it with Bart Scott. There's always one or two. I just wonder if New England's going to do anything. Do they trade a second rounder for Simmons and just say, hey?
I was going to ask you that. So that's the big one to me is like, what's he worth? Because he's an awesome player. He is. He's 20. I'm just looking up his details right now. He's 28, right? No. Yeah, 28.
28.
He has his contract is through 2020. Free agency in 2028.
This is very tradable. So if New England trades for him, they'd be incurring $8 million. They'd save Tennessee $8 million. Tennessee would have to pay 14. It would, the Patriots would acquire. So he'd be playing for $8 million next year. Of course, there's an add-on over the cap. $25 million with no money guaranteed after this year. So He has $23 million left on his deal guaranteed, which is his cap number this year. New England would basically be getting a flyer on a guy with 2 years remaining. They can restructure it. They can redo the deal after this year. He'd be his age 28 season. Again, last year, I don't think for anybody, with Tennessee. It was
you know what I would do? I'd guarantee him new money. Guarantee him new money in next season, 2026. If you're going to make that deal, I would say, hey, look,
you don't want a 1-year flyer deal at this point.
Yeah, a second round pick is a lot to give up to for a team that's not ready to win a championship right now. If you were like, oh, we're on the cusp, we'll make this move, and if we don't keep him, we don't keep him. But this guy pushes us over the top. This would be, we're bringing him here, but we see that there's at least multiple years with that guy, giving up the second round pick. I'll tell you what, you made Patriot fans happy. They would love to see Jeffrey Simmons. And considering they're
far more too, if he doesn't come back right, you don't have to be like, oh my God, we're screwed again.
Right. I mean, they had to play Daniel Akawale 65% of the snaps last year, which
and the wise words of Mike Giardi, not what you want.
No, not what you want at all. And look, perfectly fine player, has a role on a football team, has a role probably on a good football team, not at 65% of the snaps. That just makes zero sense. Or if it happens, you're in deep, what. My last one, I'm gonna put Tee Higgins on the table. We talked about him a little bit. The Chargers, like they kind of cleaned up their books last year, right? Khalil Mack is probably going to walk, let him go into free agency. And we saw them make the playoffs and then flame out in the postseason. And Herbert had a really rough day. But they have one legitimate receiver. Like Palmer was okay, hit and miss. It was Ladd McConkey. And McConkey works mostly from the inside. Get him the outside guy, his, new Keenan Allen or his new Mike Williams when Mike Williams is healthy. Do that with Tee Higgins. Again, I wondered if Harbaugh would do this because it's generally not how he builds his football teams. But now that they've got some money reset and they know that they have he's a damn good quarterback who's just going to have to get over the playoff hump at some point. Tee Higgins would make a lot of sense because I just think, A, he's really good when he's on the field. B, what it would do for not only McConkey working underneath with the attention that Higgins would get, but they actually got good production out of their tight ends this year. Will the tight ends be even a little bit better because, look, they can't muddy up the middle of the field because they have to pay attention to that guy who can get over the top of a defense and certainly catch the back shoulder stuff as well as anybody in the league. So to me, Tee Higgins in LA, $32-ish million a year. And I did want to add, by the way, you were talking about sort of as we've talked about the different conversations about the money. Higgins obviously has had the physical issues. He's not yet 26. Someone needs to send him, or he needs to take better care of himself, send himself to a doctor that specializes in soft tissue stuff. Willie McGinnis did this when he was the Patriots, constantly had a hip issue. That's actually where they found Alex Guerrero. You can get into, I don't want to get into that whole Guerrero thing, but anyway, Willie ended up all of a sudden staying healthy for like 6 or 7 really, outstanding years with the Patriots. Tee Higgins needs to find himself someone that can do that for him. But what about the idea? Because you start to hear numbers like the 35 million is Jefferson, right? And Chase wants to go above that. So let's just say Chase gets 36, but Higgins is in free agency. Could somebody be stupid and offer him similar money? I say, yeah, but you know what? Just front load the friggin' thing. Like we just saw it with Calvin Ridley, right? Where people lost their minds, especially in New England. And it was a defense mechanism for Patriot fans, but like, he's not a number one. Nah, but he's a low end 1 or a high end 2. He's also way better than anybody you had. So my point last year was just spend the money because all it is money, right? Well, with this and Higgins, give yourself some protection. Front load it. 2 years, $68 million guaranteed. Yeah, what the contract's 5 years and $150 million. So his agent can dance around with the average annual value. But really, Ridley's contract is 2 years and $50 million. Would have to pay him like $3 million in year 3 if they walked away from him. So, okay, it's all the money's front loaded. Just front load this thing for 2 years. And then, hey, guess what? If he doesn't like it here or we don't like him, he's still 28 and he can get out to the market again. Or, hey, it worked. And then all of a sudden, that deal that you front loaded now lessens in value and you're in a great spot where you've got a really good football player for less money than, 2 or 3 years down the line. What's the cap going to be? And what are guys like him going to get paid? Probably more than he gets paid now. So to me, that's an interesting one where you could just sort of a lot of money up front, but you have some outs after a couple of years. So
I'm going to give you 2 to finish here, but they're kind of similar ideas you have. I just have different players. Trey Hendrickson to Detroit. they'll form the all white guy edge team out there. Again,
it's a good one. It's a good one because their whole team is bizarre. What's going on there? Everybody's asking for
how many years are we from Joe Burrow asking out? Are we 12 months?
I think if T walks, Pratt gets traded, Hendrickson gets traded, whatever the stuff happens, and it's just him and Jamar. He loves Jamar, but like, unless they have an awesome draft and add a few pieces, he's going to be like, okay, we're wasting my prime here. Like, I don't. Are you for real? Because we have really good football players here that you're letting walk out the door.
Devontae Adams to the Chargers to me is so cut and dry. Of like, he's either going to get traded for the third-round pick he just got moved for. He could still play. Playing inside probably extends his career an extra year. He's as reliable as it gets. He likes those, Herbert can throw him a million, the go balls and, some of those stuff. He can play inside. He can play outside. I don't know if the fit with McConkey is perfect because the thing with the Jets was a little wonky he wanted to be inside a lot.
Yep.
But like, he's going to probably cost you less in terms of years than maybe a Tee Higgins would. Maybe it's, Devontae gets 3 for 90, but it's really 2 for, what kind of 2 for 60, whatever it is. I don't know. Yeah. There's no remaining guaranteed really money. I think it's $8 million the Jets have to carry because Joe Douglas, like the great GM he was, restructured the deal for absolutely no reason last year, and then they didn't add anybody. So thanks, Joe. Really appreciate you making my job easier. But regardless, to me, it makes sense. He wants to go back to the West Coast. If it's like Rams chart, he's going back to Vegas. No. Right. Arizona, no. You kind of start to do the checklist, and it's like Rams or Chargers. And if I'm Devontae, I probably want to go to the Chargers, just knowing like the window is probably bigger. But again, if the Rams,
I don't hate Arizona, by the way.
I don't either. I don't hate that idea. My only issue would be like, is Devontae want to go somewhere where it's going to be
not totally sure that you're gonna be in the mix?
Yeah, is Kyler going to be the quarterback? Is he going to be going? I know that's a wonky one. But yeah, no, Devontae to the West Coast, and I think the Chargers makes a ton of sense. And then Trey Hendrickson again to the Lions. To me, him and Hutch, Sack, the production's huge. And yeah, I don't know. We didn't talk Max Crosby. The only thing I want to say on Max is this, like, yeah, again, the Lions make a ton of sense. And the command, like, you can start doing
any edge rusher, yep.
You just brought Pete in and Chip Kelly and all these guys, and you're paying Christian Will. Like,
see what it looks like. Yeah.
I almost want to see what it looks like for at least 8 weeks and then say, okay, dude, we suck again.
Suck, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no, we suck again. Like, I don't know. Like, if that's that point, maybe you do it because then someone's going to get that. Does Detroit go, oh, we didn't do it last year. We should have done it. Here's our one. And now it's like, okay, now we have a different conversation. First time.
They probably blew his value, right? Because could you have gotten 2 1s for him at the deadline? Probably this year. I don't know that you'll get it next year.
Win now. Like they knew the whole staff was going to be gone. Goff starts to get expensive. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. So that's it. We had a lot of fun. We made a lot of teams better today, and maybe some teams worse, but we don't care about them. We just care about making the teams better. That's going to wrap up this edition of the All 32 pod. He is Will Parkinson. I'm Mike Giardi. Remember to like, listen, subscribe, rate, review, do all those wonderful things. We appreciate you, and we will talk to you again next week.